The human man had always believed his life would stay small and quiet. His name was Aaron Cole, and he worked as a logistics technician on the edge of human-controlled space. His days were filled with shipping manifests, repair checks, and long nights staring at stars that felt far away from any real adventure. He had once dreamed of exploration, of becoming someone important in the galaxy, but life had taken a simpler path. That was before the message arrived. The message did not come through normal human channels. It arrived encrypted, layered with alien code, and marked with a priority level Aaron had never seen before. At first, he thought it was a mistake. He almost deleted it. Then he saw the sender's name and froze. Kethvar Wren. Kethvar had been his friend, not just a colleague, not just an alien he once worked with, but a real friend. They had met 12 years ago during a joint relief mission after a mining moon collapsed near the neutral zones. Humans and several alien species had been forced to work together to save survivors. Most aliens had treated the humans with polite distance or quiet doubt. Kethvar had been different. Kethvar was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver-blue skin and eyes like polished stone. He belonged to an ancient merchant house, one of the oldest trading dynasties in that region of space. Yet he spoke simply, laughed easily, and trusted quickly. During the mission, when systems failed and chaos spread, Aaron had stayed calm and found ways to reroute power, patch hulls, and keep people alive. Kethvar had watched him closely that day. After the mission, they stayed in contact. Sometimes they talked about trade routes and technology. Other times they talked about culture, fear, and hope. Kethvar often said humans were strange, too emotional, too stubborn. But he always said it with respect. Then, without warning, the messages stopped. Years passed. Aaron assumed his friend had returned to the deep trade lanes of the galaxy, too busy to talk to a small human technician. Life moved on, until now. The message was short. Kethvar Wren is deceased. As named heir, you are summoned to the Wren Concordance to receive the inheritance. Aaron read it 3 times. His heart pounded. Named heir? That made no sense. Kethvar had a powerful house, countless allies, and a family beyond counting. Why would he choose a human? Before Aaron could reply, a second message arrived. Coordinates, a travel authorization, a warning that refusal would result in legal forfeiture. 2 days later, Aaron stood inside a transport ship far larger than anything he had ever boarded. Alien attendants moved with quiet efficiency. No one questioned him. No one doubted his right to be there. That alone made him uneasy. The journey took weeks through folded space corridors. During the trip, Aaron studied everything he could about Wren inheritance law. What he found only confused him more. In Kethvar's culture, inheritance was not only about blood. It was about trust, strength of judgment, and long-term vision. Still, it was almost unheard of for an outsider, especially a human, to be named primary heir. When the ship finally arrived, Aaron's breath caught in his chest. The Wren Concordance was not a single planet, but a vast orbital complex surrounding a golden gas giant. Rings of habitats, shipyards, gardens, and towers spun slowly in perfect harmony. Countless ships docked and departed every minute. This was power made visible. Aaron felt very small. He was escorted through wide halls made of living crystal and dark metal. Symbols of the Wren House lined the walls, telling stories of centuries of trade, war, and survival. Everywhere he went, alien eyes followed him. Some showed curiosity. Others showed disbelief. A few showed open hostility. Finally, he was led into a circular chamber. At its center stood a raised platform. Around it sat representatives of different alien houses, legal observers, and trade lords. The air was heavy with expectation. A tall figure stepped forward. Aaron Cole, human citizen of Earth-aligned space, the figure announced. You stand before the Wren Concordance as the designated inheritor of Kethvar Wren. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Aaron swallowed. I think there's been a mistake, he said honestly. Kethvar was my friend, but I don't belong here. The figure's eyes narrowed slightly. The declaration was verified by Mind Seal and genetic confirmation. There is no mistake. A projection appeared in the air. It showed Kethvar as Aaron remembered him, calm, steady, and faintly amused.
If you are seeing this, the recording said, then I am gone. Aaron felt a tightness in his chest.
I chose you, Aaron Cole, Kethvar continued, because my people are trapped by tradition. They value blood over wisdom and control over compassion. You showed me something rare. You acted without waiting for permission. You protected lives that offered you nothing in return. The projection shifted, showing documents, seals, and legal structures. I leave you my fleets, my trade rights, my holdings, and my authority. Not because you desire power, but because you never did. The chamber fell silent. Then Kethvar spoke again, his voice softer. There is one more responsibility. A door on the far side of the chamber opened. She entered quietly. Aaron noticed her immediately, not because of beauty alone, but because of presence. She carried herself with calm dignity, her movements smooth and controlled. Her skin shimmered with soft hues of violet and pearl, and her eyes were deep and intelligent. She wore mourning attire marked with the symbols of the Wren house. This is Lady Salith Wren, the figure announced, wife of Kethvar Wren. Salith stopped a few steps from Aaron. She studied him without fear or anger. There was sadness in her eyes, but also strength. By Wren custom, the figure continued, the household bond remains intact. Lady Salith remains under the protection of the inheritor. The meaning hit Aaron slowly, then all at once. He shook his head. I don't accept ownership of anyone, he said firmly. Another wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. Salith raised one slender hand. He speaks truth, she said. Her voice was calm, clear, and steady. I am not an object. I am a responsibility, a partner in stewardship. This is what the law intends, even if some have forgotten.
Several representatives looked uncomfortable.
The lead figure paused, then nodded. So recorded. The ceremony ended shortly after, but the tension did not fade. As Aaron was escorted to his assigned quarters, he felt the weight of countless eyes on his back. He had inherited wealth beyond measure, power he never wanted, and a role he did not understand. Salith walked beside him in silence until they reached a private corridor. You are afraid, she said gently. Yes, Aaron admitted. And confused. She gave a small, almost sad smile. Good. That means you are not dangerous. They stopped at the entrance to a vast living space, overlooking the gas giant's glowing storms. My husband believed humans see paths others do not, Salith continued. Now the galaxy will test that belief. Aaron looked out at the endless stars. He felt fear, yes, but beneath it, something else stirred. A quiet resolve. I won't let his trust be wasted, he said. Salith nodded. Then we begin together. Far away, hidden eyes watched the human inheritor with growing interest. Some saw weakness, others saw opportunity. None yet understood what humanity truly brought with it. And this was only the beginning. Aaron Cole did not sleep that night. The chamber assigned to him was larger than the entire apartment he had lived in for years. Soft light flowed from the walls, adjusting to his breathing. Outside the wide, transparent barrier, the gas giant rolled slowly, its storms glowing like living fire. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt heavy. He sat on the edge of the resting platform, hands clasped together, trying to understand how his life had turned upside down in a single message. Across the room, Salith Wren stood near a data console. She had changed from her formal mourning attire into simple robes, still marked with subtle symbols of her house. She moved with quiet confidence, as if this place, this power, was not something new to her. Because it wasn't. You will not rest if you continue fighting your thoughts, she said softly. Aaron let out a slow breath. I keep expecting someone to walk in and tell me this is all a mistake. She turned to face him. Many wish it were. That made him look up. Already? Salith nodded. The moment Kethvar named you, the balance shifted. Some houses lost influence. Others lost future control.
You are inconvenient. That's one way to put it,
Aaron muttered. She allowed herself a faint smile, then grew serious again. Tomorrow, you will face the inner council.
They will test you. Test me how? By watching you fail, she replied honestly.
They expect a human to be overwhelmed, to grow arrogant, or to panic. Aaron rubbed his face.
I don't want to rule anything, I just want to honor my friend. That may be the most dangerous answer of all, Salith said.
The next cycle began with no ceremony. Aaron was led through a series of meetings that seemed designed to exhaust him. Trade overseers presented numbers without context. Legal advisors spoke in layered meanings and ancient phrasing. Security chiefs asked questions that felt like traps. Every word he spoke was recorded. Salith looked up sharply. Do not move, she said. The air shifted. A shimmer appeared near the far wall, resolving into a masked figure armed with a compact energy blade. Security alarms screamed a second too late. The assassin lunged. Aaron reacted without thinking. He grabbed the heavy chair beside him and threw it. The impact knocked the attacker off balance just as Salith moved. She struck with precise force, disarming the figure in seconds. Security flooded the room moments later, weapons raised. The assassin was taken away. No words were spoken. Afterward, the silence felt louder than the alarms had been.
They will escalate,
Salith said calmly, though her eyes burned with controlled anger. That was a message. Aaron's hands trembled slightly. Because I said no to cutting wages? Because you exist, she replied. Because a human holding this inheritance threatens old assumptions. Aaron sat down slowly.
I don't want anyone hurt because of me.
Salith stepped closer. Then you must become stronger. Not louder. Not cruel. Stronger. The following days proved her right. Legal challenges arrived from 3 different houses, questioning the validity of Kethvar's decision. Trade routes were suddenly delayed. Supply contracts were reviewed. Pressure closed in from all sides, subtle but relentless. Aaron leaned on Salith more than he expected. She explained customs, hidden meanings, and long-standing rivalries. In return, he shared human strategies, decentralization, redundancy, transparency. Together, they began making changes. Aaron ordered audits that cut through layers of corruption. He broke monopolies by opening trade access to smaller groups. He promoted individuals based on competence rather than lineage. Each move angered someone powerful. But it also earned loyalty. Workers began wearing small symbols marking Wren holdings with quiet pride again. Minor houses pledged support, seeing opportunity where once there had been none. Salith watched all of this with growing respect. One evening, as they stood overlooking the concordance lights, she spoke carefully.
My husband believed humans were dangerous to stagnant systems.
Aaron let out a dry laugh. I'm just trying to be fair. That is why you are dangerous, she said. Fairness disrupts control. He looked at her. Do you regret this? Being tied to all this chaos because of me? Salith met his gaze steadily. I was tied to chaos long before you arrived. You simply gave it direction. That was the first time Aaron saw something beyond mourning in her expression. Not affection, not yet, but belief. Far above the concordance, unseen observers adjusted their plans. The human had survived longer than expected. He was not breaking. He was adapting, and that worried them more than any display of force, because humans did not rule by fear alone. They endured. They learned. And once tested, They did not step back. They stepped forward. The pressure reached its breaking point during the fourth cycle after Aaron Cole accepted the inheritance. The summons came without warning. All major houses, trade authorities, and legal arbiters were called to a public tribunal inside the Grand Exchange Hall. It was the oldest neutral ground in that region of space, a place where wars had been prevented. When Aaron read the notice, he already knew what it meant. "They are done testing you in the shadows," Saelith said as she finished reading the same message. "Now they will try to break you in the open." Aaron nodded slowly. "If they think I'm going to run, they don't know humans very well." The day of the tribunal arrived under heavy security. The exchange hall was massive, its ceiling lost in layers of light and floating symbols that displayed law, history, and authority. Representatives filled the tiers. Ancient alien nobles, trade lords wrapped in wealth, legal minds who spoke in logic sharper than blades. Aaron walked in wearing simple attire, no symbols of dominance, no display of power. That alone unsettled many. Saelith walked beside him, her posture calm and unyielding. Murmurs followed them like ripples through water. At the center platform, the High Arbiter rose. "This tribunal convenes to evaluate the legitimacy of Kethvar Ren's inheritance declaration," the Arbiter announced. "Specifically, the appointment of a human as primary holder of Ren authority." A tall alien from House Velkar stepped forward, scales flashing under the lights. "This appointment violates the spirit of our laws," he declared. "Humans lack the lifespan, discipline, and cultural understanding to manage such power." Others voiced agreement. Aaron listened without interruption. When his turn came, he stepped forward and spoke plainly. "Kethvar knew the laws better than anyone here. If he chose me, it was not an accident." "You claim intent," another voice said coldly. "Prove it." Saelith turned to Aaron. He nodded once. A data projection activated. Kethvar's image filled the hall again. Gasps echoed. "I anticipated this challenge," the recorded Kethvar said. "To those questioning my choice, ask yourselves why you fear it. Is it because the human is unworthy, or because he is not controllable?" The projection shifted, showing decades of internal records, evidence of manipulation, exploitation, and power hoarding by elite houses. The hall grew tense. "I chose a human," Kethvar continued, "because humans adapt, they question. They change systems instead of preserving rot." House Velkar erupted in protest. Before the Arbiter could respond, alarms blared. An explosion rocked one side of the exchange hall. Panic spread instantly. Security forces rushed toward the blast zone as armed figures poured in through breached entry points. "It's an attack!" someone shouted. Chaos threatened to tear the tribunal apart. Aaron did not run. He moved toward the center platform, raising his voice. "Everyone stay down! Security, protect the civilians first!" Some hesitated. Then they listened. Saelith was already moving, coordinating guards, redirecting shields. Together they formed order out of chaos. When an attacker broke through toward the lower tiers, Aaron saw a group of unarmed delegates frozen in fear. He acted. Grabbing a fallen shield generator, he activated it and placed himself between the attackers and the crowd. Energy fire slammed into the barrier, throwing him back. Pain exploded through his shoulder, but he held. Security forces rallied behind him, pushing the attackers back. Within minutes, the assault was contained. The broadcast had never cut out. Across the galaxy, billions watched a human stand unarmed between power and destruction. After the hall was secured, silence returned, thick and heavy. The Arbiter looked at Aaron differently now. "This tribunal will continue," the Arbiter said slowly. House Velkar tried again. "This proves nothing. Anyone can act bravely under pressure." Saelith stepped forward. "My late husband feared his own people," she said clearly. "He feared tradition used as chains. He chose a human, because humans are not bound by our internal hierarchies."
She turned to the hall. You ask if he understands our laws.
I ask if you understand justice. That question cut deep. The arbiter conferred with the council. At last, the ruling came. The inheritance stands, the arbiter declared. All challenges are dismissed. The hall erupted, not in anger, but shock. Aaron exhaled slowly. But victory brought new danger. That night, intelligence reports flooded in. The attack had not been an isolated act. A coalition of houses was forming. Quietly, efficiently.
They will move to force now, Saleth said grimly.
Aaron looked at the data. Then we prepare. He reorganized the Wren fleets, abandoning traditional formations in favor of flexible human-inspired units. Smaller ships, faster response, independent command cells. Some admirals protested. He replaced them. Supply lines were diversified. Defensive platforms were repositioned unpredictably. He formed alliances with minor species long ignored by the major powers. They know the edges of space better than anyone, Aaron said. And they're tired of being stepped on. The coalition struck sooner than expected. Trade convoys were ambushed. Communications were jammed. A Wren outpost went dark. Saleth stood beside Aaron as reports came in. They want to isolate us. Then we don't let them, Aaron replied. He authorized countermeasures. Not annihilation, but disruption. Coalition fleets found their routes exposed, their supply nodes cut, their command fractured. Humans called it asymmetric defense. The coalition called it chaos. In the middle of it all, Saleth was targeted. An extraction team breached her transport mid-transit. They never expected resistance. Saleth fought with calm precision, buying time until Wren escorts arrived. When Aaron learned of it, his response was immediate. No more, he said quietly. He broadcast a message to the coalition. You want control, Aaron said, standing before the stars. You want power without responsibility. I won't give it to you. His voice was steady. I will not rule through fear, but I will protect those who trust me. The message spread fast. Neutral worlds began closing ports to coalition fleets. Minor houses defected. Pressure shifted. For the first time, the coalition faltered. Saleth watched the galaxy respond and finally allowed herself a rare smile. You are changing things, she said. Aaron looked tired but determined. So are you. She met his eyes. Perhaps that is what frightens them most. Far away, the coalition leaders realized their greatest mistake. They had expected a human to play by old rules. They had forgotten that humans rewrote rules when survival demanded it. And the storm was far from over. The conflict no longer hid behind words or legal challenges. It moved openly through space. Aaron Cole stood inside the command ring of the Wren flagship, watching streams of data flow across the holo displays. Red markers showed coalition fleet movements. Blue markers showed Wren assets and allied forces. The pattern was clear. They are closing in, said Commander Thrax, one of the few senior officers who had accepted Aaron's leadership without protest. They want a decisive battle. Saleth stood beside Aaron, her expression calm but focused. They believe force will succeed where law failed. Aaron nodded. Then we don't give them what they expect. He had learned something important in the past weeks. The coalition thought like empires. Large fleets, heavy weapons, overwhelming pressure. Humans had faced that kind of thinking many times in their own history, and survived. Aaron gave a quiet order. Initiate phase shift. Across Wren-controlled space, fleets began to move, but not toward the enemy. Instead, they spread out. Small groups broke off. Supply ships changed routes. Communication nodes went silent, then reappeared elsewhere. Confusion rippled through coalition command. They're not defending the core worlds, one coalition strategist hissed. What is the human doing? What Aaron was doing was removing targets. He ordered civilian habitats evacuated in advance, using quiet channels and trusted local leaders. Workers were moved to safe zones. Critical data was backed up and scattered. Nothing important stayed in one place long enough to be destroyed. Saleth watched it unfold with growing admiration. You are denying them victory before they can even fight. I'm denying them leverage, Aaron replied. They can't threaten what isn't there. The coalition adapted quickly. They shifted tactics, striking at outlying stations and minor allies, hoping to draw Aaron out. One such attack hit a small trade world allied to the Wren. The planet had no defenses strong enough to stop a full assault. Aaron did not hesitate. He sent help, not a fleet, a message. The message was simple. Instruction, emergency plans, human-style resistance methods adapted for alien use, power rerouting, false signals, defensive improvisation. The trade world held long enough for coalition forces to lose momentum. That victory spread hope faster than any broadcast. But the coalition still had numbers and anger. They escalated. A massive coalition fleet moved toward the Concordance itself. This is the moment they've waited for, Threx said grimly. If they take the Concordance, everything ends. Aaron stared at the projection. He felt the weight of every life depending on his next decision. Saleth placed a hand on the console beside him. If you wish to retreat, no one would judge you. He shook his head. If we run now, they'll never stop. This ends here. He issued the order that shocked everyone. Prepare the Concordance defenses and open a channel. To the coalition? Threx asked. To everyone, Aaron replied. The broadcast went live across the region. Aaron stood before the camera. No armor, no symbols. I was given power I did not ask for, he said. I was told I did not deserve it, that I was weak because I am human. He paused. I have seen what power does when it is used to control instead of protect. I won't be part of that. The coalition leaders sneered from their command decks. Aaron continued. If you attack the Concordance, you will face resistance, not because we want war, but because we refuse to kneel to fear. He looked straight into the lens. And if you win by destroying everything, you prove my point. The channel closed. Minutes later, the first shots were fired. The battle was unlike anything the region had seen. Coalition fleets advanced in heavy formations, overwhelming with firepower. Wren defenses responded with precision and movement. Smaller ships darted in and out, striking vulnerable points, retreating before retaliation. Human tactics confused alien commanders. Coalition ships found their targeting systems flooded with false data. Supply ships ran dry faster than expected. Command signals were delayed or lost. Still, the pressure was enormous. A breach opened near one of the Concordance's outer rings. Boarding parties incoming, security reported. Aaron's jaw tightened. Seal civilian sectors. I'm going to the breach. Saleth turned sharply. No, you are not a soldier. I'm responsible, he replied. She searched his face, then nodded. Then I'm coming with you. They arrived at the breach to chaos. Smoke, flashing lights, alarms. Coalition troops poured through damaged corridors. Wren guards fought bravely but were being pushed back. Aaron grabbed a fallen rifle, not to kill, but to disable. He moved with controlled focus, covering evacuations, helping wounded retreat. Saleth fought beside him, efficient and fearless. At one point, a coalition officer confronted them. You could have ruled peacefully, the officer snarled. Why fight us? Aaron answered simply. Because peace without choice isn't peace. The officer attacked. He did not win. As the battle raged, something unexpected happened. Independent fleets began to arrive. Minor houses, trade unions, even neutral groups. They answered Aaron's earlier message, not as subjects, but as allies. The coalition suddenly found itself surrounded. Their advantage disappeared. Hours later, silence returned to space. Wreckage drifted where fleets had clashed. The Concordance still stood. The coalition retreated, not defeated completely, but broken. In the aftermath, emergency councils convened, damage reports poured in. Losses were heavy, but the Concordance survived. Sylith stood beside Aaron in the quiet that followed. Her eyes were tired, but bright.
You challenged inheritance law, she said softly.
You challenged ownership. You challenged power itself. Aaron leaned against the railing, exhausted. I just did what felt right. That is why this cannot go back to how it was, she replied. In the days that followed, something shifted across the region. Workers demanded representation. Minor species demanded voice. Ancient laws were questioned openly. Aaron made his most dangerous decision yet. He called for reform. He announced that no being under Wren authority would be bound by inheritance or ownership traditions. Choice would replace obligation. The reaction was explosive. Some praised him as a liberator. Others called him a traitor. Sylith stood with him publicly when he made the declaration. I choose this path, she said clearly, not because I must, but because I believe in it. That single sentence echoed across the galaxy. The Coalition's leaders realized too late that the war had changed shape. They were no longer fighting fleets. They were fighting an idea. And ideas, humans knew well, were harder to destroy than ships. As Aaron looked out over the stars once more, he understood something deeply. This was no longer about inheritance. It was about what kind of future the galaxy would accept, and humanity had just stepped into that future without asking permission. The aftermath of the battle left the Concordance scarred but alive. Smoke still rose from damaged docking bays, and power fluctuations flickered across the outer rings. Aaron Cole walked through the corridors, not as a visitor or heir, but as someone fully responsible for the lives under his authority. Every step reminded him that the galaxy had not forgotten him, nor had it forgiven him. Salith Wren walked beside him, her robes catching the soft light from the windows. She had changed over these weeks. The widow who had entered his life quietly and carefully was now a leader who moved with confidence, her intelligence and skill recognized openly by all who saw her. She no longer followed his instructions blindly. She worked with him, as an equal, a partner. The Coalition has not given up, she said. They are regrouping, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Aaron nodded. They will find it harder next time. We have allies now, more than they expected, and we know their weaknesses. She paused, glancing out toward the gas giant, its storm slowly turning as if the planet itself was marking time. You changed everything, Aaron. Not just for Wren Holdings, but for everyone under its protection. I didn't change it for power, Aaron said quietly. I changed it because I couldn't ignore what was wrong. Someone had to. The words echoed through the silent corridor. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, small ships moved cautiously among the rings, still under repair and reorganization. But alive, the Concordance had survived when many expected it to fall. The days following the battle were filled with work. Aaron and Salith oversaw reconstruction, repaired trade lines, and attended countless meetings with minor houses now eager to cooperate. These were not the rigid, tradition-bound sessions he had faced before. Now, discussions focused on fairness, innovation, and shared protection. Aaron introduced human-style councils, committees where representatives from all worlds under Wren authority could speak, vote, and propose solutions. It was chaotic at first. Many aliens struggled to adapt, but gradually, the benefits became clear. Efficiency improved. Safety increased. Loyalty grew, not forced, but earned. Aaron discovered that leadership was more than decisions and orders. It was listening, understanding, and building trust. He spent time visiting habitats and workstations, talking to workers and engineers, hearing their concerns. They began to recognize him not only as the inheritor of power, but as someone who cared about their lives. Salith often accompanied him on these visits, quietly observing, then offering advice or insight. One day, in a quieter part of the Concordance, Aaron asked her a question he had held back for weeks. Why stay with me? He asked. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Salith looked at him steadily. I could have left at any time. I could have returned to my house, my people, and the security I was born into. But I stayed because you act differently. You respect life, not just law. You make decisions based on what is right, not what is easy. That is rare, even among humans. Aaron blinked, feeling a warmth he had not expected. I don't deserve your trust. You earned it, she said simply, in ways that do not require inheritance or law. Their partnership became a symbol. Across the concordance and far into human and alien space, reports of their cooperation spread. Humans and aliens alike began to question old hierarchies, old prejudices. They saw a human leading alongside an alien, challenging outdated traditions with courage, fairness, and intelligence. Not all accepted this new order. Some alien houses continued to plot. Some human allies expressed concern that Aaron was overextending. Then the galaxy will learn a new truth, she said quietly. Strength does not belong to those who demand it, but to those who wield it wisely. The concordance had survived the storms of battle and politics. Minor worlds felt safer. Trade networks were functional. The people began to hope. And humanity, represented by a single man far from Earth, had earned respect across species, demonstrating a courage that no written law, no fleet, and no tradition could ignore. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility lighten slightly. Not because the work was over. It was never over. But because he now understood the principle that guided him. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Speak truth even when it is dangerous, and never let fear dictate action. That was humanity's greatest strength. Salith squeezed his hand, and for the first time, Aaron allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. He had inherited much more than wealth or power. He had inherited a chance to shape the future, to show the galaxy the value of courage, morality, and partnership. And in the quiet of the evening, as stars reflected off the swirling storms of the gas giant below, Aaron knew one thing clearly. Humans had arrived, and they would not be ignored. Across the concordance, the lights dimmed and rose with the pulse of life in the stations. Ships moved along new trade routes. Children played in safer habitats. Engineers worked on repairs with steady hands. And somewhere in the corridors, those who had once plotted against the human found themselves reconsidering everything they thought they knew. The galaxy had changed, and the man who inherited his alien friend's fortune, including the widow who had once been untouchable in tradition, but not only survived, it had reshaped the cosmos in a way no one expected.
Aaron looked at Salith, then at the stars beyond the balcony.
He felt hope, responsibility, and the quiet thrill of knowing that the story had only just begun. Humans were not just visitors in the galaxy. They were a force of courage, fairness, and unyielding determination. And together, Aaron and Salith would ensure that this truth spread farther than any fleet or law could ever reach. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And for the first time in his life, Aaron allowed himself to believe in the impossible. Every pause was noted. He realized quickly that many were not looking for leadership. They were looking for weakness. When one overseer demanded immediate approval to cut wages on a mining ring, to increase profit margins, Aaron asked a simple question. Will it risk lives? The overseer hesitated. Production accidents may increase by a small margin. Then no, Aaron said. Fix the safety systems first. The room went quiet. That decision will reduce quarterly output, another voice snapped. Then reduce it, Aaron replied. Dead workers don't create profit at all. The reaction was mixed. Some looked offended. Others looked surprised. Salith watched closely but said nothing. By the third meeting, word had already spread. The human inheritor was not following the script.
Later that cycle, Aaron insisted on touring one of the lower habitation rings.
The request caused visible discomfort among his escorts. Those areas are not necessary for your understanding, a security official said carefully.
Then they're exactly where I should go, Aaron replied. The habitation ring was older, built centuries earlier.
It housed thousands of workers from dozens of species. The air was clean, but thin. The structures were functional, not elegant. When people saw Aaron walking among them, they stopped. Some bowed out of habit. Others stared openly. Aaron felt it again, that uncomfortable awareness of power he never asked for. He spoke to engineers repairing aging conduits, to families crowded into shared units, to traders struggling under old contract rules. He listened more than he spoke. He took notes. He asked names. When a young alien worker asked why a human cared, Aaron answered truthfully, "Because someone once did the same for me." That simple sentence traveled farther than he knew. Not everyone approved. That night, as Aaron reviewed reports in his chamber, the lights flickered, but he faced each challenge with the same principle he had held since the beginning: fairness, courage, and the protection of those who could not defend themselves. Months passed, the concordance stabilized. Trade lines reopened. Repair efforts completed. Minor skirmishes with the remnants of the coalition were dealt with decisively, but without unnecessary cruelty. The galaxy began to take note. Humanity was no longer a distant curiosity. It was a force to be considered, respected, and, in some cases, feared. One evening, after a long day of council sessions, Aaron and Salith stood on a balcony overlooking the central hub of the concordance. The lights of the stations glowed softly, reflecting off the calm surface of the gas giant below. "You did it," she said. "You changed the rules." "No," he replied. "We did it together." She smiled faintly. "Then perhaps that is why this will last. Not because one being rules, but because we all have a voice now." Aaron nodded. He thought about Kethvar, his late friend who had trusted a human with everything, even the life of his widow, and the legacy of his house. That trust had not been misplaced. It had changed the course of many lives, of entire worlds, and it had revealed something that Aaron had not fully understood until now. The power of humanity was not in domination, not in fear, not in force. It was in courage, in morality, and in the ability to stand for what is right, even when no one else would. Salith turned to him, her expression softening. "And what about us?" Aaron looked at her and saw a reflection of everything they had endured: the battles, the councils, the moments of doubt, and the decisions that had defined them. "We continue," he said simply. "Side by side, not because tradition says we must, but because we choose to." She reached out, placing a hand on his. It was a gesture of equality, of trust, of partnership.